statement. Once they are freed through marriage, if they commit adultery, their punishment shall be half of that for the free woman. Marrying a slave shall be a last resort for those unable to wait. To be patient is better for you. God is forgiver, most merciful. Continue to 26, inshallah. God wills to explain things for you and guide you through past precedents and to redeem you. So in 26, the opening statement says, He wills to explain things to us and guide us through past precedents. Well, this is important because anything that God says to do, we know that it's for the good and it's not for the wrong. So we would uphold these commandments and do it joyfully and peacefully, knowing that these are the most righteous. This is the most righteous guidance you could possibly obtain because it's coming from God. So you would definitely follow these commandments. Now, continuing on, it says, and to redeem you. God is omniscient, most wise. And to redeem you is a another beautiful thing God said is, and to redeem you. God is omniscient, most wise. And it says in the footnote 424, if believing women flee their disbelieving husbands who are at war with the believers, they do not have to obtain a divorce before marriage. See 6010. 425. This law proves that the punishment for adultery could not possibly be stoning to death as stated in the laws of corrupted Muslims. A very self-explanatory text. Corrupted Muslims chose to say something that was not actually permitted. And they would follow this as religious guidance, which this is not true. Now I'm continuing to 27. God's mercy. God wishes to redeem you, while those who pursue their lusts wish that you deviate a great deviation. Now, here's an important perspective when you're just following God's path, when he's giving you these commandments on marriage, and you're following the correct path with marriage. You have those on the outskirts who are pursuing their lust, and they have jealousy in their hearts when they see you are succeeding, but you're just succeeding because of what God told you to do and you're following it. Now, the mercy in it is God wishes to redeem you. And just continue on with that. While they pursue their lusts, they wish that you deviate a great deviation. So with that being said, the commandments that God gives us are so powerful that it could even strike envy in someone else's hearts because they're not doing with they're obviously not doing what they're supposed to do when it comes to following God's commandments, when it comes to dealing with the opposite sex. So 28, God wishes to lighten your burden, for the human being is created weak. This is a beautiful statement because uh, with no ego in the human being's heart, he can outright say that he knows he has been created weak. He or she knows that they have been created weak, and they know by God's signs to them where they are lacking strength at, and with God's assistance, He wishes to lighten your burden and can strengthen you in those very areas. 29. Murder, suicide, and illicit gains prohibited. O you who believe, do not consume each other's properties illicitly. Only mutual, acceptable transactions are permitted. Now, I would like to go back to the opening, the subtitle in 24, where it says mutual attraction, and then also where it says in 24, mutually agreed to adjustments to the dowry. If an individual was to illicitly consume someone's property, are they at all being mutual? Are they at all? Having? Are they using mutual acceptable transactions? This is an individual who is being totally, is only prioritizing their own goals rather than, thinking about or having regard for someone else. Uh, Continue on to the next statement. It says, only mutual acceptable transactions are permitted. So we understand that mutual is very important. Being equitable. You shall not kill yourselves. That's another thing. When you kill yourself, are you being mutual? That doesn't, I can't imagine you killing yourself and then you have family members who would be struck with, sadness because you decided to take your life. Is that being mutual? Nonetheless, it says God is merciful towards you. Anyone who commits these transgressions maliciously and deliberately, we will condemn him to hell. Now, these are transgressions. Not only are they transgressions, they are prohibited. And not only are they prohibited, they are gross sins, as said in 31. I go to it. Now, maliciously and deliberately deliberately means consciously aware of, and someone who is consciously aware that they are committing gross and transgressions. Could they possibly be thinking about God? Could they possibly be having God on their mind when doing such deliberate things? I don't think so. In 31 it says, if you refrain from committing the gross sins that are prohibited for you, we will remit your sins and admit you an honorable admittance. So this is kind of like a breather from 30, where it just lets you know that if you commit these type of transgressions and sins, you will be condemned to hell. And as a submitter or a believer in God, you would see this and you feel relaxed to know that there's a path where you can not do those wrong things and be condemned in hell, where you could actually do the right deeds and you can be admitted an honorable admittance if you refrain from committing the gross sins that are prohibited for you. In the subtitle in 32, it says, men and women endowed with unique qualities. You shall not covet the qualities bestowed upon each other by God. Let me continue. The men enjoy certain qualities and the women enjoy certain qualities. This is important. You shouldn't have an intense feeling towards someone else's blessings or gifts, whereas you should, what this enlightens us to focus on is to be appreciative of what we have been given. And that's appreciativeness, because how could you be appreciative if you are immensely or intensely focused on someone else's qualities bestowed upon them by God, where you also have your qualities bestowed upon you by God? You would not be able to grow in your own bubble if you're focusing on someone else's. So in the next statement, it says, you may implore God to shower you with his grace. God is fully aware of all things. This would be an immense amount of appreciativeness on your part. If you're imploring God to shower you with his grace, God is fully aware of all things. In the subtitle, it says, do not object to the inheritance laws proposed by God. Excuse me. For each of you, we have designated shares from the inheritance left by the parents and the relatives, also those related to you through marriage. You shall give them their due share. God witnesses all things. 434, inshallah, it says in the subtitle, do not beat your wife. The men are made responsible for the woman. There was a time I was interacting with someone, a female, and she was saying, she asked me a question. She said, what is your definition of dominant? and I couldn't give her an answer. I was really stuck. But when I read 434, I just connected dominant with the men being responsible. And I found that just from what it says in 34, the men are made responsible for the women. That's where I just said that if it had she asked me again today, I would say this very thing: the men are made responsible for the women. And it says, and God has endowed them with certain qualities, and some of the qualities being um, muscular, some of the qualities being logical thinkers. Not saying no, not all women are logical thinkers, but more logical thinkers, I think. Um, and just other qualities of protectiveness and dominance, and wanting to keep their family very um, protected and secure. Nonetheless, the next statement it says, and made them the bread earners. Um, it says the righteous women will cheerfully accept this arrangement, since it's God's commandment, and honor their husbands during their absence. If you experience rebellion from the women, you shall first talk to them. Then you may use negative insensitives like deserting them in bed. Then you may, as a last alternative, beat them. If they obey you, you are not permitted to transgress against them. God is most high, supreme. The men and the women. Um, it says, I think, in when I was just reading, in when it comes to belief, you are equal to another. In 25, I'm going back a little bit, but it says in 25, as far as belief concerned, it says, and you are equal to one another as far as belief is concerned. I wanted to point that out because even dealing with experiences like this, there is still to be equivalence. There's still to be, I want to say, mutual tolerance to problems and issues that you may have. And God says to um, honor their husbands during their absence. But nonetheless, when going through issues with your partner, is to still be equitable with each other, and just keep God inside of the problems, and that would definitely be your way out from all the issues and things arriving. Uh, but nonetheless, equitableness in issues like that is important. In the next one, 35, it says marriage arbitration. If a couple fears separation, you shall appoint an arbiter from his family and an arbitrator, I think I'm saying it right, arbitrator from her family as well. Now, here we go again with mutual and equivalence. One side is going to be an arbitrator from the male's family, and then an arbitrator from the female's family. And this is an equitable way to figure out the problem when it comes to separation. This is if a couple fears separation. Continue on, if they decide to reconcile, God will help them get together. God is omniscient, cognizant. So once again, when I had said in 34, keep God in everything, keep God in the problems. It says in 35, God will help them get together. God is omniscient, cognizant. So in the subtitle 36, major commandments. You shall worship God alone. Do not associate anything with him. You shall regard the parents, the relatives, the orphans, the poor, the related neighbor, the unrelated neighbor, the close associate, the traveling alien, and your servants. The definition of regard, and it's to think about. There's some few other definitions, but that's the one I remember. It's to think about. Um, it says your parents, the relatives, the orphans, the poor, the related neighbor, and so on. And this is to I think just to be kind, to not just think about yourself all the time, not to be arrogant, not to be self-righteous. When you're thinking about someone else, sometimes even more than yourself, you may even be thinking about how you can help an individual. So there's benefits to it when you're not just thinking about yourself. Nonetheless, it says God does not like the arrogant show-offs. 37, the one who are stingy exhort the people to be stingy and conceal what God has bestowed upon them from his bounties. This is an individual who walks tall, stands like a pencil, and puffs his chest because he or she is an arrogant show off, and they are stingy when it comes with dealing with the people, when it comes with being charitable. They are stingy. And it says, we have prepared for the disbelievers a shameful retribution. So this same very person who stands super tall, held high, but is egotistical and stingy, says, well, before I even continue, could this person possibly be thinking about being righteous? Could this person possibly be thinking about God? I don't think this person could be if they're being stingy and bestowing upon them from his bounty and concealing what God has bestowed upon them from his bounties. This person is also arrogant. I just don't think this person could be thinking about God because actually I know this person couldn't be thinking about God because a believer wouldn't do such things. So therefore it says in 37, we have prepared for the disbelievers a shameful retribution, because those are qualities of disbelievers. Those are qualities of hypocrites. Those are not qualities of a submitter to God. We know qualities of submitters of God. They are righteous. They are charitable. They are caring. They regard their neighbors. They regard their friends. They're kind-hearted. They're also stern with the disbelievers. But that's different from arrogant and a show-off. And that's also different from the characteristic stingy. A believer would easily lend out his currency and or his support towards someone who is in need. So as I read again in 37, inshallah, it says, we have prepared for the disbelievers a shameful retribution. Now in 38, it says, they give money to charity only to show off, arrogance, while disbelieving in God in the last day. If one's companion is the devil, that is the worst companion. Now, yeah, if one's companion is the devil, that is the worst companion. I don't think that needs any more saying. 39. Why do they not believe in God in the last day and give from God's provisions to them? God is fully aware of them. Why do they not believe in God in the last day and give from God's provisions to them? God is fully aware of them. God is fully aware of the disbelievers, the believers, the hypocrites. We're all stamped and we all wear on our neck where we're going when on the day of judgment. So it says God is fully aware of them. But in 40, subtitle says divine justice. God does not inflict an atom's weight of injustice. God does not inflict an atom's weight of injustice. I think this is super important because if the equivalence is law and God is teaching us to be mutual with arbitration, he's teaching us to be mutual with changes, arrangements in dowries. He's teaching us to be mutual, to have mutual acceptable transactions. And he's also teaching us to be mutually attracted to our spouse. How could we possibly think that God would inflict an atom's weight of injustice? Rather, God would inflict an, a weight of equitable retribution because he teaches us the law of equivalence and the law and to be mutually agreeing with things and to be equitable. So, and this is divine justice. Now, On the next statement, it says, on the contrary, he multiplies the reward manifold for the righteous work and grants from him a great recompense. Thus, when the day of judgment comes, we will call upon a witness from each community, and you, the messenger, will serve as a witness among these people. In the footnote, it reads, it's a pretty long footnote. It reads, 434, God prohibits wife beating by using the best psychological approach. For example, if I don't want you to shop at Market X, I will ask you to shop at Market Y, then at Market Z. Excuse me. Then, as a last resort, at Market X, this will effectively stop you from shopping at Market X without insulting you. Similarly, God provides alternatives to wife beating, reasoning with her first, then employing certain negative incentives as deserting her from bed. Remember that the theme of this surah is defending the woman's rights and countering the prevalent oppression of women. That's a beautiful theme to take home. Defending the woman's rights and countering the prevalent oppression of women. Any interpretation of the verses of this surah must be in favor of the woman. The surah's theme is protection of women. This expression simply means that God is appointing the husband as captain of the ship. Marriage is like a ship, and the captain runs it after due consultation with his officers. A believing wife readily accepts God's appointment without mutiny. Now back to that interaction with that female I interacted with. In this appendix, it really does help me to see that in the quotations, it's appointing the husband as a captain of the ship, and the captain's not God. So I can definitely throw that perspective out, but it gives me a little bit more. So if I was to go to that person and re-answer their question, I would have more information to say when it comes to the definition of dominance for a man's perspective. But it says marriage is like a ship, and the captain runs it after the due consultation with his officers. But even still, the captain needs guidance, and the captain would still have to turn his head towards God, so he could, move that ship by God's leave uh, after due consultation with his officers. And it says a believing wife readily accepts God's appointment without mutiny. Now, inshallah, if we have any discussions we would like to go over in these beautiful verses, please do share.
Thank you, brother. MashaAllah.
But on 440, divine justice, that when I had said um, God, like when it says God does not inflict an atom's weight of injustice, but then I had said God would inflict. Does anyone think that's well said, or any comments on what I had said? Oh, um, okay. I said in 440 when it says God does not inflict an atom's weight of injustice. Well, that's what the Quran says. And then when I had said, but God will inflict an atom's weight of equitable retribution. I was wondering someone's perspective on what I had said there.
Assalamualaikum. So, brother, do you mean like God will be just, or like what do you mean by that wording? Sorry, I don't understand.
So, so like what we've read today is like what I'm kind of seeing is he's teaching us to be fair. He's
Mm-hmm.
teaching us to be equitable, and he's
Mm-hmm.
teaching us to be mutual. So what I
Yes.
was connecting there was the same thing with his like retribution towards someone who does a wrongdoing. It will be equitable, and it wouldn't have the slightest um, uh, atom's weight of wrong. I think I put that wrong, but it would be his retribution would be equitable just as well as he's teaching us to be equitable. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, like so God is just, right? So he's a just judge on the day of judgment. And when God tells us, for example, for charity, when you give to charity, um, it's like a grain that gives if I don't if I don't say it wrongly, like 7 spikes, and from each spike you have like on each spike you would have like 10 more of these grains. So it's like 700 times of what you pay, it will be paid back to you, multiplied manifold. And if you do something bad, you will be paid for the exact amount, like if you say it like that. So if you do something good, God will reward you even like multiplied manifold. But if you do something wrong, he will just requite you for what you've done. So you would receive whatever for whatever you have actually done, the
Right.
same weight, right?
That makes me think
So
of I think sorry, Ma, I just want to say this to you or everyone in here. Isn't it in the Quran where it says if you do like a sin, you get requited for that one sin, but if you do a
mhm,
good work, you get requited for it 10 times, or it, I think it's in the Quran. That's something I would like to find in the
yeah.
exact wording.
So yeah, so that's right. And when God says He does not inflict an atom weight of injustice, I mean, if you think about it, He has included in our instinct the monotheism. When we were all before coming to this world. We were all gathered, and God asked us, do you bear witness that I'm your God? We all said, yes, we bear witness. And it is in our instinct that monotheism. And then God sends us messengers. God sends us His scriptures, guides those who want to be guided. But then some people actually choose to go astray. So it's not that God is making him go astray. They choose to go astray. um, and therefore they bring that upon themselves. It's not that God, you know, pushes them. They choose to be um, to go astray, and those that do not will to be guided, well, of course, will not be guided. So yeah, it's our own choice that to go astray or to be guided, and then God will help us after that. I mean, throughout, of course, not after that, but by the way that, but based on our choices, we will either go to heaven or hell.
MashaAllah. Yes, and we're talking about that. There's many people that it shows, like they say they believe in God, but I come across a few people that blame God, and it just shows their disbelief, in God and actually knowing God's traits, who God really is. Because somebody dies in their family or gets real sick or something, some tragedy happens either to them or usually to a loved one, and they're extremely bitter about it. And I've heard of people talk to people too that used to quote unquote believe, but now they don't, or they still think they still say they do, but they're still blaming God for whatever happened to them or their friend or their daughter or son. This verse in the Quran nullifies, what these people believe. And it just shows how these people they don't know who truly God really is. I just thought just made me think of that. People I've come across or you hear about how they're bitter. It just reflects their lack of understanding about how just God is, even though circumstances they see, But I guess it ties into maybe, if they only knew we were here, the criminal element behind all of us, the human beings, maybe they would be more open to understanding. Sorry if y'all had trouble. I'm driving right now.
I wasn't able to find exactly uh, the verse I was looking for when it comes to equivalence with earned sins or wrongdoings, but I found um, in 10:27 it says, "As for those who earn sins, their requital is equivalent to their sin." So even connecting with what we were going over today with equivalence and mutualness, um, I just missed it again. But those who earn sins, their
The
requital
verse
is
before that.
equitable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the verse before that is actually about the righteous, Nora. 10:26. 10.
10:26.
Yeah, so if you read from 10:26, it covers all of it.
Let me see. Well, in 10:26 it says, the subtitle says, "Heaven and hell are eternal. For the righteous, we reward. We It says, for the righteous, the reward will be multiplied manifold. Their faces will never experience any deprivation or shame. They are the dwellers of paradise. They abide therein forever." It says the reward will be multiplied manifold. So this is also an equitable um, reward for the righteous. So compare that to the opposite of righteous. Yeah, if you earn, you don't get your well, wait. Well, I almost said that your sin gets multiplied as well, but I don't want to say that. Um, but now I'm thinking through my head certain things that might be in the Quran, but nevertheless, it says in 26, the reward will be multiplied manifold. So that's obviously an equitable reward for the righteous. But now I'm gonna, inshallah, look for like if a sin is like multiplied, or I don't know.
I don't recall a sin being multiplied. Though, see if we can find. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing. But God, rewarding the righteous multiplied manifold is very generous and is very merciful. And again, God says, anything good that happens to you is from God, and anything bad that happens to you is from you. So God is merciful towards us, unless we choose not to be in His, with Him or follow His guide. The right way has been shown to us, and the wrong way is also there. It is for us to choose which way we want to go, and once we make our choice, we'll be requited accordingly. Yes, mashallah, how can they half kill someone? And also, this verse 25 very clearly describes the relationship with the slaves, which has been very wrongly described by some of the nominal Muslims. So here, as we see, God does not allow having affair with the slaves, whereas what they say is that it's fine, you can do that for as many slaves as you want to have. Here, God explains very clearly that you shouldn't commit adultery, and if you want to marry these the non-freed women, But if you want to have a relationship with these non-freed women, you should marry them. So it's very clear and alhamdulillah, just as we were just saying.
MashaAllah. I was if I was actually able to find the surah verse I was looking for. It's 6:160. It says, "Whoever does a righteous work receives a reward for 10, and the one who commits a sin is requited for only one. No one suffers the slightest injustice." So, uh, yeah, that's what I was looking for to tie all this into equivalence and justice, and as it says in 40, divine justice. God does not inflict an atom's weight of injustice. On the contrary, he multiplies the reward manifold for the righteous work. And it says in 6:160, whoever does a righteous work receives a reward for 10, and the one who commits a sin is required for only one. So, yeah, that's a good way to tie up different surahs and verses to each other, because um, God does not inflict an atom's weight of injustice.
Also, if you read 2261, it's how God rewards those who are charitable.
In 2261, I think that's the one you're talking about,
No,
2261.
no, chapter 2, Heifer, verse 261. Sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
2261.
The subtitle for that one says "The Best Investment." The example of those who spend their monies in the cause of God is that of a grain that produces 7 spikes, with 100 grains in each spike. God multiplies this manifold for whomever He wills. God is bounteous north. Okay, yeah, that's another good one. When it comes to righteous works being multiplied, that's a good one. Um, and we get to look at the comparison. We get to look at the allegory or the creation of the grain, and it says that produces 7 spikes with 100 grains in each spike. So that's 700. I think if I did my math right, that's like 700. Nonetheless, it says God multiplies His manifold for whomever He wills. MashaAllah, that was a good one.
Yeah, subhanAllah, God is merciful. SubhanAllah.
maybe off-topic conversation.
The way that location issue on the submission app still hasn't been fixed. Where you like try to, the world practices thing where you try to like look up different locations and stuff. Like when you try to search up a location on it, and it just doesn't. There are no results. Like you go to the app, you click on world practices, you try to add a location for like, and it gives you the option to search for a location, but it doesn't allow me to see the location. Oh wait, salami? Okay, so Solomon the one who I know Solomon created the app, and he said there was an issue with the API or something. No, I'm not really sure about that.
Sorry. What was that? Are you
Yeah,
talking about
I
the
haven't had
thing?
it.
Yeah, my machine was out for repair. I just got it. So
I was connected to a machine.
I'm sorry.
What do you mean your machine was at for repair?
My computer.
Oh, so is that why? How does that relate to how the world practices thing on the submission app? So why is it that when I try to look it up, it doesn't give any results?
Because
Like,
because something's broken. I need to fix it.
yeah, you said your computer you had just gotten back from out for
Right.
repair.
And so I need my computer to make the changes. Yeah.
You got that now?
Yes.
All right. Nice.
All right. You're welcome.
By the way, another thing I should probably let you know, I'm starting inshallah, I'm starting school on Thursday. So that will probably conflict with the Tuesday studies.
Oh, okay.
The Saturday studies I've often had like cross country training on. So
Mhm.
yes, I can still listen to the studies on
Mhm.
YouTube, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's been I've enjoyed being able to participate in these and learn different submitters' perspectives.
Praise be to God.
Yeah, I'm actually an incoming junior at a high school in Fair Oaks
Mhm.
with
That's
all
cool.
this stuff.
Yeah, I'm
So,
actually also starting school pretty soon.
who
Me,
are you going into? Uh,
I'm going to a master's in Johns Hopkins for artificial intelligence. So my classes start end of this month, God willing. So
Inshallah, good luck
thank you.
to both of you. Oh, mashallah, I didn't know that you're a high school student. Jamil.
He left. Or no, he's here. All right. All right. So, are there any other comments or questions from anybody, or any off-topic questions?
Yeah, mashallah. What I was trying to say earlier, I apologize for the background noise, but it was just in relation to the verse about how God doesn't inflict an adequate weight of any injustice, and it just reminded me of a
Sorry,
lot of people,
Rahel.
a
Sorry.
lot of people, uh, um, a lot of people I've come across. I've come across a fair amount of people that blame God for things, like a relative or friend or son, daughter dies, or something real bad or tragic happens, and they used to be believers, and then like out of nowhere, they grow this resentment, and I think that just shows their lack of belief in God and lack of understanding of who God is. Because the verse tells us right there, there's no injustice. He's the most just. And I want to say maybe one of y'all can chime in on this, but I want to say I even maybe heard the messenger in a few different audios. He was a lot of the punishments that people get, they act, a lot of the times they actually deserve worse. So like whether it's whatever type of retribution, um, it's still in a way merciful. Um, I forget how he phrased it, but so it just reminded me of a lot of people that or I know a few people that used to believe, and someone dies or gets messed up by Satan somehow, and they're extremely bitter towards God, and they actually think they're like, by disbelieving or reverting or whatever, they actually think they can hurt. I even told one person a few years ago. I said God doesn't care. Like, you're not that special. You can't. They're thinking some twisted way they can get back at God by disbelieving, but it's really they only hurt themselves, and it just, um, shows the lack of understanding about the just justness of God.
Exactly. That's great what you're saying, Brother John. It reminded me, a very high level archbishop in the UK was saying some time ago that it's okay to be angry with God. You know, then you would think, well, this person is supposed to, advocate righteousness. And I think this really, the root is exactly what the messenger said. They do not know who God is, and they have no knowledge about God. Once they have knowledge about God and they know that God is the one that is running everything, God is most merciful, then they think about all the creation, everything, seven universes and everything. They would realize who God is, and that's when, once you realize who God is, that's when the reverence will be instilled in your heart. If you don't know who God is, I mean, you wouldn't know, right? Be instilled. It's exactly the same as Satan. He believed in God, but he didn't know God's quality, that he is the only one that is running everything. God is doing everything. And that led to his fall, right? Um, so that's exactly the same as what's happening in the world at the moment. People don't know who God is, so they have to increase their knowledge about God to be able to reverence Him.
So yeah, it actually it's funny when you talk about people being angry. It reminded me. I even saw this Christian sermon on YouTube. I think by this guy Charles Stanley. He actually just died recently, but it's someone my mom used to listen to. But I remember seeing it was titled something. I'm paraphrasing, but it had the word anger, like how to turn uh, resentment and anger against God into something, or like how to turn it into fuel for bettering yourself, or just something like that. And they actually give sermons, and it's exactly what you said. Like it's I guess it's common wherever it's common at, but it's they I've seen a trend where people almost talk about it like it's okay to be mad at God. I've seen sermons with these titles. I've heard excerpts about uh thinking God, and it's like not even thinking for one moment. Imagine you have someone so powerful, or something. I don't want to but you're dealing with something so powerful, and like, how dare anybody? And I know we've all fell into sin out of ignorance, at least me in times, but um, I can't. I guess it's just it's just wild to see these people. Some of the things that they'll preach or they'll try to teach about, or they just openly teach or accept like it's no big deal, to be mad or something.
Yeah, I guess it's easy to be angry with God when you don't know who God is. And you don't believe in God. If they actually believed in God, nobody would dare say anything.
Right, exactly.
All right, so I guess if there are no other comments or questions, God willing, we can conclude our study. So thank you, everyone, for participating, and thank you, Brother Khalis. To Brother Khalis, he's not even here actually, or he's here. Sorry, and for leading
Assalamu
the
alaikum.
study. Assalamu alaikum. And thanks, Brother Salami, for streaming. God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum. Mm.
Salam alaikum.
Alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.